Hey, what's up guys? My name is Chris, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about security and privacy best practices that you can follow to keep yourself safe in today's digital world. Before I get started talking about security best practices, let me define security and privacy. Security can be defined as the necessary steps to protect a person or property from harm. Privacy can be defined as the state or condition of being free from public attention to the degree that you determine. So therefore, security best practices can be defined as the best things that you can do to take the necessary steps to protect yourself or property from harm. So why is security important or even necessary? Attackers have many different motives to perform the attack. They might be after financial gain, as in stealing your identity. They might be after fame, or they may even just think it's fun to hack a computer and do it for the fun of it. So as you can see, there's a definite need for security, and as an end user, it is your responsibility to do as much as you can to stay safe. There are many different kinds of attacks, and as a result, there are many aspects to security and many things to consider when talking about security best practices. So the first thing we're going to look at is malware. Malware is a term often used to refer to a variety of harmful or damaging software. There are many different kinds of malware, such as viruses, trojans, rootkits, worms, and so on. But for this video, we're just going to talk about the best practices you can do as a user to protect yourself from it. The first and most obvious thing you can do is install anti-malware software on your PC. Once the software is on your PC, keep it updated and scan your PC frequently. You should also keep your PC itself up to date. A lot of times these updates will patch a security vulnerability. The next thing you should do is create backups of your PC. So if you do get a virus and you can't simply remove it, you can restore all your data from the system backup. The third thing you should do is in your computer settings, go to Control Panel, System and Security, Security and Maintenance, and then click where it says Change User Control Settings, and then set this to Always Notify. What this will do is notify and ask for your permission before any app makes changes to your PC. If a virus was downloaded to your PC before it could make changes to your system, the setting would let you know which app or file was trying to change your system and ask you to grant permission so it could do so. Malware will typically enter your PC from online through a web browser. There are other ways to extend your PC, like their USB port, if someone plugs in an infected USB, but for the most part, it's going to come from online for the majority of users. Some of the best things that you can do to secure your browser and be safe online include configuring your browser to block all pop-ups. A lot of times, clicking on a pop-up is a good way to get a virus. You should only visit websites you trust and never continue to a website if your browser tells you it is recognized as a dangerous site. Only download files from websites you trust. You should always keep your browser up to date. Some browsers do this automatically, some don't. You should deny cookies on your browser and configure them to be automatically deleted every time you close the browser. Cookies are little bits of data collected about the user and placed on the computer's hard drive. Both first parties and third parties can collect data like this and use it. While this might be nice in some cases, maybe you don't have to enter your username or password every time you open a site, it could also be exploited by an attacker, so you should always block and disable cookies. Another thing you can do is set up email spam filters to block as much spam as possible, as sometimes this can contain malware. If your filter automatically prevents it from reaching your inbox, then you don't risk getting infected through a spam email. Okay, let's now talk about personal security attacks. This includes things like password attacks, identity theft, social engineering, and attacks using social networking. Passwords are by far the most common way of getting into an online account, such as email or Facebook. It is crucial that you create strong passwords. There are several kinds of attacks that try to crack a password, and the easiest way to prevent these attacks is by changing passwords regularly and by using very long, complex passwords. Security experts recommend you use passwords of like 30 characters long. Obviously, most users will not manually create passwords this long. It's quite the inconvenience to have to type that in every time you try to get into your account. An easy way to avoid the hassle of creating, remembering, and having to type in long passwords is by installing a password manager application on your PC. A password manager application can generate, save, and store your passwords for easy use later. Now, social engineering is a broad category of attacks. It's the attempt to try to trick the user into giving up personal information that could be used in an attack, like identity theft. The most common form of social engineering is phishing, which is the act of sending an email to someone that appears like it came from a legitimate source to try to get a user to give the attacker personal details. An easy way to prevent phishing is to never click a link sent to you in an email. If you get an email claiming to come from your bank, you should never click the link in that email. It could take you to a fake site that looks real but actually captures your data and gives it to an attacker. The link could also take you to a site that installs malware on your device. Another kind of social engineering is typo-squatting, which is setting up a fake site with a very similar name to a real site, so that anyone who accidentally enters the fake site name will be sent to the wrong site, which could be set up to capture user passwords, usernames, credit card information, and other personal information. You can easily avoid this by checking carefully what you type into your browser before you hit search. A very good example of social engineering is displayed in a video on YouTube called "What's Your Password?", in which an interviewer cleverly worms passwords out of people, and only after they have told the interviewer their password do they realize what just happened. The video is quite humorous, but it really goes to show how easy it is to become the victim of social engineering. Social networking. So, social networking sites such as Facebook can contain a lot of information about you that an attacker could use in identity theft. Some best practices when using social networking sites include: be careful about what you post. This is also something to consider when thinking about privacy. Posting something like, "I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks," wouldn't be the smartest idea. Be careful about who can see what you post, which includes, for Facebook, being careful who you friend. Adjust settings to protect privacy. A good practice would be disable everything, and then only allow things that you need. You should also periodically check the list of devices used to access your account. If you see unusual activity, change your password immediately. Identity theft. Identity theft is the act of using the personal information of someone else with the intent to commit fraud or other financial crimes. Some best practices to prevent identity theft include being careful with your social security number, credit card number, and other identifying information. Only enter this information into sites that you know for certain are legitimate. On top of being careful with that information, you should monitor financial statements and accounts regularly to check for any suspicious activity. As always, strong passwords for your accounts are a must. Let's talk a little bit more about mobile devices and networks. Wireless home networks need to be configured with strong passwords to prevent unauthorized access. You should use WPA2 for your security settings on your home network, as it is the most secure. You should also change the default network name. That way, attackers don't know what kind of device you have, which could allow them to perform an attack on a known vulnerability for that specific device. Another thing you should do in the security settings of your home router is change the default router administrator login. Change to the default administrator login prevents someone that is connected to the network from changing security settings for the network. When you're not on your home network, such as when you're in a coffee shop, you should be aware of potential fake networks and be careful to only connect to the real public network and not an imposter's. An imposter could set up a laptop broadcasting a signal and name it the same as the real network, and you could connect to that, and that would send all of your data through their hotspot, and they could capture it and use it. You should never use public Wi-Fi for transmitting any sensitive data. Always use a VPN when using unsecured Wi-Fi network, as this encrypts your data and prevents anyone who intercepts it from reading it. Mobile devices need to be secured as well. Some best practices for mobile device security include: use a strong password for the mobile device. Because mobile devices can be easily lost or stolen, they should have a very strong password to log on to them. A lot like clicking on the link in an email, you should never use a QR code on a mobile device, as it could take you to a site you're not expecting it to take you to. Never jailbreak or root your device, as this disables the built-in operating system security features. Turn off Bluetooth whenever it's not needed, as it can be used as a way to get into the device. Just like a computer, a mobile device's operating system should be kept up to date to help patch vulnerabilities. And just like a computer, you should be careful of what apps you install on the device to make sure they are legitimate before you download it and agree to the permissions. You can also encrypt your device to protect all the data on it. On a little more of the physical protection side of things, be aware of your surroundings when using a mobile device, especially in a crowded area, as it could easily be stolen by someone passing by. You should also set up a remote wiping feature on your mobile device, so if it does get stolen, you can erase all the data remotely. Keep a backup of the data on your mobile device, so if it does get lost, stolen, or broken, you don't lose everything. After backing up your device, you should also remove any unnecessary data on it. Now let's talk a little bit about privacy. Privacy is a big concern today. With the explosion of the digital world, privacy has become less and less of a norm and increasingly harder to achieve. While you might not be able to completely keep personal data away from everyone at all times, there are some things you can do to help protect your personal privacy. Some of these best practices include always use strong passwords for all accounts that have personal information on them. Never provide personal information over the phone or through an email message. Keep personal information in a secure location. As mentioned earlier, be careful with what information you post online on social networking sites and who can view it. You should install anti-spyware software on your PC, which will help your computer from getting infected with spyware. Configure your browser to block pop-ups or use a pop-up blocker. Use the private browsing option on your web browser and configure it to clear the cache and cookies every time you close it. If you want to, you could use Tor web browser, which is considered the most private and secure browser. Encryption is the best way to make sure that the data you're sending is not able to be read if intercepted by an attacker. Encryption makes data unreadable unless the decryption key is used to decrypt the data. You should make sure that any website you need to transmit sensitive data to, like your credit card number, uses encryption technology to keep the data safe as it is being transmitted. To do this, make sure the site has a padlock icon and the URL begins with HTTPS. As you can see, there are a whole host of things you can do to protect yourself and your privacy, and we've barely scratched the surface here today. I hope you found this video informative and helpful in how to protect your privacy and security. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.